Weather Channel. No place on earth has better weather.
This program is sponsored by Rayovac.
It is now 10 minutes before the hour. Thanks for joining us on the Weather Channel. You've tuned in just in time for the winter weather update. We want to show you first, though, the latest on Rick. You know, this time yesterday it was a hurricane in the Gulf of Tehuantepec, close to the area. Now it has been downgraded to a tropical storm as it has moved inland right over Salina Cruz, a city in Mexico near the Gulf of Tehuantepec. It is centered, if you want to plot it, 16.1 degrees north, 95.2 degrees west, with winds of 65 miles an hour. It's moving east-northeast. Its forward momentum 15 miles an hour. And there you see the lowest estimated central pressure, 990 millibars. Now, we do still have tropical storm warnings for the Gulf of Tehuantepec here as our tropical storm again has moved inland. The good news about Rick is that at first it was threatened to bring a lot of its tropical moisture closer to Acapulco. Remember the city in Mexico a couple of months ago that was bombarded with Hurricane Pauline. We're happy to say that Rick has taken a more southerly route, so it's a little farther south of Acapulco. But all of its heavy rains, anywhere from 5 to 10 inches, are possible. Flooding, mudslides possible here around Salina Cruz and near the Gulf of Tehuantepec. And you can see the latest infrared satellite picture. We've color enhanced the higher and the colder cloud tops, and again heavy moisture associated with the system. So please be on the lookout if you have friends or relatives in the Mexico area here around Salina Cruz and the Gulf of Tehuantepec. But the good news is that it is south of Acapulco, which was one of the major tourist cities in Mexico that really got to the brunt of our last hurricane here that developed in the eastern Pacific. So it's quite active here in the eastern Pacific, actually, and partly perhaps due to the weather phenomenon that you've been hearing about, I'm sure, all year long, El Nino, as we have the warmer than normal water temperatures in the eastern Pacific. And one sign is that to have a very active tropical season, and that certainly has been the case in the eastern Pacific, very inactive in the Atlantic in response to the warmer waters in the eastern Pacific.
Now, as it's moved inland into eastern Mexico, it's now being classified as a tropical depression, 16.5 north, 93.9 west, and the wind's now down to 35 miles an hour. Movement east-northeasterly at 15, so the main threat from Rick will be very heavy rains. As we show you the enhanced colorized satellite picture, you can see the movement of Rick right across the Mexican states of Oaxaca on over into Chiapas now, and that's where we expect another 5 to 10 inches of rain. I can read you a little story here that's come in from the wire services saying Hurricane Rick hammered fishing villages and tourist resorts. Those are the same ones that were reeling from Pauline. High seas, pounding rain, 75-mile-an-hour winds made highways impassable, damaged bridges, and forced people to evacuate their homes along the famed stretch of beaches that includes resorts of Huataco, Puerto Escondido, and Puerto Angel. No deaths or injuries were reported, but news of damage was limited by the loss of road access and telephone communication with many small villages. Let's give you the visible satellite picture, and we close right in on the area. Here is the Mexican state of Chiapas and Oaxaca here, and here you can see the moisture associated with Rick now moving in. Still very rough conditions on the coast here, probably been a surge of about 2 to 4 feet, so right along the immediate coast, some higher tides. Going back to the enhanced colorized satellite picture, again you can see where Rick has moved, moving out of Oaxaca and into Chiapas. It looks like Tabasco could see some heavy rains too. So there goes Rick moving into eastern Mexico. And down to the south, an area of disturbed weather here that the Hurricane Center is watching off the coasts of Panama and Costa Rica here. Still the potential for very heavy rains. And the Hurricane Center is watching this closely because they say there is the potential that a depression may form down here in the next day or so. There's Rick moving inland, weakening a tropical depression. And down to the south, there is an area of disturbed weather. That is your latest update on the tropics. One last note. See all this moisture out and through here? Well, eventually, with our stormy weather coming in through California, as that energy sweeps its way eastward, might tap into some of that moisture and make for
No place on earth has better weather.
Okay, momentarily we'll have your winter weather update. First up, though, good news regarding Tropical Depression Rick. The last advisory has been written on TD Rick as it is over land. It is at 17 north and 92 west, and about that puts it about 75 miles east-northeast of Tuxtla Gutierrez, Mexico. And again, the top wind's 30 miles per hour. Moving along now to the east-northeast to 17 miles per hour. So it's probably over the northeastern part of the state of Chiapas, Mexico. It may clip northern, very northern Guatemala. We'll have to see if it does emerge as any sort of an entity over the western Caribbean Sea. For the time being, though, we are really not too concerned with that prospect. The big concern still is the threat of heavy rainfall in extreme southeastern Mexico and in western areas of Guatemala. That will be the risk with mudslides, also the byproduct of that. As far as the wind goes, however, that will not be a factor, and this circulation really has gotten ripped apart over the mountainous terrain here in southeastern Mexico. But there was some damage done. I read a statement. The big road leading out of Mexico City down to the coast was cut off by the heavy rain that actually washed out that roadway. There's still some residual cloud cover out here too, south of Acapulco and well into the open water of the eastern Pacific. So we'll continue to monitor the situation.
7, the United Paramount Network.